another episode of Craft Stories. Today I'm talking to Judith de Bie and Martijn Gerrits, and they started the Rummieclub Distillery in Amsterdam.
Meet Judith de Bie and Martijn Gerrits. They fell in love with the magical world of rum. Building upon the connection between rum and the historical city of Amsterdam, they decided to start their own 21st century distillery in the Dutch capital. Now they are experimenting with wild yeasts from their gardens and bringing a whole new range of flavors to the world.
Hi guys, welcome and thank you for joining me. Let's start at the very beginning. How did you end up making rum in Amsterdam?
I think the idea started already several years ago. And we already had this idea to start a distillery, but it was always a bit of a joke. But now we at some point we just decided, okay, let's just do it and see how far we get. But actually we also went all in, so we sold our house to get the necessary money, and we did a small crowdfunding, not really that much. It was a pre-sale, so we didn't really borrow any money. And then we started. I think we got the key to this distillery or to our building last year, December. So we're almost 1 year here in this building. And so far we're going strong.
And what made you decide to go for rum instead of vodka, whiskey, or gin?
I think there's a different story for both of us. So I always was a whiskey guy. I always liked whiskey, and I noticed that the whiskey that I liked was getting more expensive and more expensive. And at some point, I tried to switch to something else, and I was looking to an alternative, and I found rum. And from there on, I started to drink more and more. Well, not, but more and more different rums. At some point you start a distillery, and the joke was a whiskey distillery. Eventually that turned into rum because I like rum more. So
I was always a rum fan. I'm not really into the whiskey, so for me it was always rum. And I also really feel that rum didn't always get the love and attention it actually deserves. It's a very diverse spirit, and not everybody knows enough about it. But it's also combined with a lot of relaxed and fun vibes, like the Caribbean style, and you can drink it mixed or you can drink it neat. So for me, I really like the rum vibes. And when we got into the rum, I met a lot of people in the industry, and it's really a family vibe, like the rum family. It's a good family to be part of.
All right, so you decided we're going to be distillers. You decided we're going to make rum. Take us on that journey with you. What were the next steps?
Yeah, it was quite a journey, I guess.
I don't know. I think the first thing we did was started to talk to people. How things are working, and I think we started at the Rum Barrel, which is a rum bar, and that was near to our house. And from there on, we met new people, and then at some point we ended up with E&A Shear, which is one of the biggest bulk resellers of rum in the world, which is in Amsterdam. So we started to talk to them, and then they also had some ideas, and with them they also sell blends. So at that point we were thinking maybe we should just make our own brand instead of let's have a distillery, but. Eventually that
well, I guess
really our idea.
We really started with the craft of distilling. So at first we were home distillers. So for us, it didn't feel natural to doing a blend and maybe more doing like in the marketing. We were into the craft. So we decided to go for that part. And then I guess the most difficult thing is to get a place where you can legally distill. So needing to find a location and getting the right permits. And well, we already talked about the money and ordering all the stuff and doing research. That took quite a while. And we also had a 1 year delay on the building we're now in. But it also gave us a lot of time to experiment at home and learn more, get to know everybody in the field. So yeah, for now, when I look back, then I think maybe it was good that we had a lot of time for preparations.
Yeah, so you're basically self-taught. Did you follow any courses on distilling?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we read lots of books on the rum, but also on distilling. And of course, we did the iStill training. Yeah, I don't know.
We went to Barbados, which was really nice. Yeah, it was really tough to. No, we went there and we got a lot of tips from the master distiller from Foursquare, Richard Seal. He was very helpful, so that was really nice.
Yeah, iStill behind us is switching program steps. I don't know if you can hear the beat.
Sorry. And yeah, the iStill course was also a very important moment for us. It was. Well, the same week we sold our house, we went to Woerden and learned a lot about, we hadn't decided yet if we wanted to go for an iStill. And at the end of the week, we decided we wanted to do that. So yeah, it also gave us a lot of more in-depth information about not only this still, but also distilling in general. So that was very useful. Mm-hmm. And we did some rum courses from Rum Symposium Amsterdam over here. That was mostly focused on rum and not really production, but was also very interesting.
Yeah, more history and tasting and different techniques, you know, that they use all over the world.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the distillery. Well, we already heard the iStill beeping, so we know that's there. And what does the rest of the distillery look like? We have a very tall building. It's not that big, but it's quite high. It's in Amsterdam, or actually it's in Diemen, at the east side of Amsterdam. And we have an iStill 500. We have 2 fermentation tanks also. So we do around 3 batches a week, because you also ferment in the iStill. And we are especially known for our mural you see back behind us. It's made by a local graffiti artist, and she also made a label for our first edition. And the second edition is made by another graffiti artist. So yeah, the street art and the fun colors and the vibes, that's important to us. And the Rummieclub brand.
Yeah.
I guess that's.
Yeah. So it's not really that big. I think how many square meters? I think 55 square meters of
downstairs,
production floor, and then we have an office where we are now, which is sort of halfway, half a floor, which is 25 square meters. So in total, it's about 80.
Not that big.
Yeah.
Oh, so 3 distillation batches a week. That's quite a lot. Also, bottling, labeling, all done at the distillery?
Yeah, we still have to find a machine, but so far we are the machines.
Yeah, everything is done by hand in-house. So all the fermentation, the distillation, the bottling, the labeling, just putting it on with our bare hands. It works quite well so far, but it's not that big. So sometimes it's a bit crowded over here. But we do have quite a lot of production indeed. So the 3 batches gives us, we can fill like a barrel a week, so it's like a 200-liter barrel at 60%. So that's pretty okay.
Okay, let's talk about the products. So, well, it's rum, we know that. Are there different varieties? Are there different blends? What are you guys working on?
Yeah, rum is really diverse. It always has to be made from sugarcane. And then you have different products made from the sugarcane, like you have molasses, which is the part that's left behind when they get the sugar out of there. We work with molasses. Most of rum is made with molasses, but it can also be made with the juice from the sugarcane. That's difficult over here in the Netherlands, as we can't grow sugarcane in this climate, and you really need to use the sugarcane juice very fast. So we get our molasses from Paraguay. It's organic molasses, and we import it through a Dutch company. And yeah, so it's a bit of a molasses. It's a bit licorice. So that's something you find back in our products.
Yeah.
And also in the Jamaican history of rum producing, they're more focused on fruity flavors and ester formation, and that's also a big part of our goal, the way we want to go. Like we focus on fermentation.
Yeah. So we now have 2 white rums on the market already, and so they're both made from molasses, and we have a regular one, which is 40%, and we have an overproof, which is 58% alcohol. And I think both have also differences in fermentation. So as you did already explain, we try to get more esters and more fruity flavors, and we try to get those by doing open fermentation, but also using wild yeasts that we sort of harvest from fruits that we pick, for example, in the garden that we have, or here in the neighborhood. And then we're also making an aged version of our rum, and to do that we have several different types of rum that we make. So we have one fermentation which is solely done in the ice still, which is temperature controlled, which is sort of our basic, sort of the foundation of our rums. And then we have a fermentation in which we use backset, and we have a fermentation that's usually or open with wild yeast, or something weird,
experimental,
where we experiment with different types of fermentation. So it's wild yeast, or maybe we, for example, feed the yeast. So we start with a little bit of molasses, and then we over several days we have a relatively long fermentation of 7 days. During that time we feed the yeast more molasses, so it gets sort of fed every
so we try to get different flavor blocks, and that's where we make our products from. So we make different rums, and then we blend it to make our products. That could be unaged or aged. We are mostly aging a lot right now, also because we can't sell that much during this time. So that will take a few years, and then we'll see what comes out of there and make new products.
So you're really playing around with different fermentations, and did it happen by accident, or was it a conscious decision where you decided we want different yeasts, different temperatures, because we want all those different esters for our rum?
Yeah, I think we already start. Well, before we actually got the building, we already started to do a lot with fermentations and different types of yeast, and we tried a lot of stuff. In fermentation temperature, we varied in fermentation length. We tried, maybe even 15 or 20 different commercial yeasts, but also the same amount of yeast that we got somewhere else, for example, from our garden raspberries. At some point you find that certain fermentation, certain tricks give you the flavor you want. I think that's the first part. But once we got the key and the bigger fermentation vessels here that we have here, the bigger tanks, it's a bit different in a 500 liter tank than it is in a 10 liter bucket. So it just gives you a little bit of a different environment, a different interaction between everything that's in this fermentation vat. So that was different. And we had to figure out some things.
But I guess it kind of went the same way. In our experiments, we found out that fermentation is really important. And then in the other way, we found out that we really wanted to go to the Jamaican style and fruitiness, and therefore it's also a question of fermentation. So then we decided that that was the focus for our recipe development.
Okay, and are you still experimenting with different kinds of yeasts, or is the protocol now set for your fermentations?
Yeah, so the difficult thing is that, so we also use a commercial yeast, and everything with the commercial yeast is sort of set now. We don't really experiment with that much. I mean, maybe, changing a little bit of the fermentation temperature, which is, if we ferment in the ice still, we have the temperature control, which we don't have in our other fermentation tanks. So yeah, that's sometimes we have to change small things. But if we usually the wild yeasts are cultivated directly from fruits. And then we just grow them from there until they can handle a 500-liter batch. And that's different every time. And it's also really difficult to keep these yeasts alive. Because that's a different skill set, and we're working on that, but that's quite difficult to learn.
It's also okay. We have decided that we want to be like experimental, and then maybe our consistency won't always be the same, but at least if we keep improving, then I guess most people will be okay with some.
So I think that this is also one of the features of our brand, is that also in the winter we get different yeast from our environment, and next summer it's also probably going to be different. And so I think this is a seasonal and
we also like to explain it to everybody. We are a very open distillery, so everybody can come in, and we also did some tours and that sort of stuff. So we'd like to explain how it works in rum, and they like it that we experiment, and they're interested. What will be your next experiment? How do you think about this? And then maybe we can try it out and tell them how it went. So it's also a fun community way of doing these experiments.
So experimenting all the time, trying new things for your fermentation, always trying out new ideas. Is that part of the character of the Rummieclub Distillery?
Yeah, it's also our fun, I guess, because we put all our money in, and I gave up my job, so at least I should have some fun. Otherwise, it wasn't worth it. So no, it's definitely worth it. But this is the way it works for us best. So yeah, it's a conscious choice.
Nice. And what can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, I think we're now fully focused on getting aged rum and making that, because is going to take a while. We already have a second batch ready for the overproof, which is already better than the one. So we learn a lot, and that's also on our label. There are going to be differences between batches, and because we're starting the distillery and we learn a lot, and we keep improving our product. So the second batch is coming out soon, I think. And then it's aged.
It's aged, and we still do. During the first lockdown, we did cocktails bringing to everybody who wanted in Amsterdam. That worked out really well. So we will do a winter cocktail again, because we're not allowed to sell rum because we don't have a liquor store license. But we can sell cocktails if they're below 15%. So it's a good way for us during the lockdowns to earn some extra money and make people also interested in rum and what's it all about. Because for a lot of people, 40% spirits in general are just too intense. And with cocktails, we get them into there and explain a bit more about rum. And then at some point, they will be sitting in the fireplace with their neat rum. I really feel like this is going to happen.
Yes, I totally recognize that. And it's all about educating your audience as well. Yeah. So Martijn, you just mentioned that you are still learning every day. Could both of you share with our viewers one of your eye-opening moments as a craft distiller, a moment where you thought, right, I need to remember this?
There are countless moments like that, but I think when we started feeding the yeast, so batch feeding fermentation, I think that was one of the things that I found most interesting to see what the results were. What I didn't really expect. So I thought, what can be, how can this be different from just giving the yeast everything at once? But it changed a lot. So yeah, that's one of the things that I really liked.
Yeah, for me, I guess I also had a lot of aha moments, but it's mostly not in the production. Well, I had a lot of those too, but for me, it was also finding out how important it is to do this with other people, to help each other, and we are not fighting each other. We are helping each other, and we need people to know what our products are and about the spirits and educating. And yeah, that really was an aha moment for me. That's the focus we should be having.
So we just heard the ice still beeping. What's going on downstairs? What are you guys concocting today?
This is also an interesting experiment, actually. We had we cultivated one of the wild yeasts, and
this one is from the raspberries from the garden.
Yeah, and it grew really nicely. And what we try to do is, I mean, it was an experiment between co-pitching or staggered pitching, which means that if you co-pitch, you pitch different types of yeast or different types of microorganisms at the same time. But now this was a staggered fermentation. So what we did was we first pitched the wild yeast, and after 3 days, after 1 day, we pitched our regular commercial yeast.
It's a 500-liter tank. It's not temperature controlled, and it has been there for, I think, a bit over a week, so around 8 days fermenting. And this morning I just pumped it in the ice still. It was heating up, and now it's running. It's just in the hearts, and it already smelled pretty nice. So I think it's going to be
different.
an interesting experiment. Yeah.
And what is it going to be used for? Is this another special edition or going into a blend, or?
It will probably go in a cask. And then in a few years, we'll check if it will be good enough for a single cask, or maybe will be interesting as an ingredient for a blend. But for now, the idea is to put it into an ex-bourbon cask.
Yeah, so it depends also a little bit on how flavorful it is. Maybe it's one of the components for the next overproof. So that depends a little bit. But let's see. I mean, it's still in the heart, so everything can change.
Okay, we need to talk about the name. How did you come up with the name Rummieclub?
That took us a long time. Yeah, we had so much names, and they were all okay, but we didn't really feel it, so we were still looking. And then at some point, Martijn just said Rummieclub, and I was like, that's it. We actually get a lot of good feedback or good enthusiasm for it. So I'm really happy for it. So it's our community feeling of the club, and it's also like rum. So I guess I'm quite happy with it.
A bit of a gaming element in there as well.
Indeed, that's why everybody kind of remembers it. So for us, it wasn't that we were thinking about the game and then this came up. No, it was we were thinking about rum and clubs, and then this name came up. But now every time you say it, like, everybody's, oh, I like the game, and I'm like, well, kind of. But then I do remember the name, so that's kind of useful.
Did you ever play the game while drinking rum?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, it's a good game.
I like the game and I like rum, so why not?
Is rum the main focus of the distillery, or are you also thinking about doing other spirits in the future?
We're mainly focused on rum, and I don't think that's is going to change. We are looking into some liqueurs to make. and also
also based on rum. So
yeah, also based on rum.
Yeah.
And also maybe some contract distilling. That depends a little bit on what comes our way.
Yeah, but we have really chosen to go for one spirit and go for that. Well, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, or maybe we will do some, but we are really focused on rum. We think there's a lot to win if you really focus on one. Then you can also, it's already a lot to learn. And then all the people involved, for us it really helps to get into the rum world and not do everything a little bit. But you never know what will happen.
Totally agree. I always feel that liqueurs are a good addition for distillery. There's not many rum based around, so I will be looking forward to that. So if you could give one tip to a starting craft distiller, what would that be?
I think for me, we were talking to so many people in the start, which was very useful. I got a lot of tips and stuff, but it also made me a bit insecure, or everybody said, oh, you really shouldn't do this, or you really should do this. And I was really going to their, I didn't had the feeling that I was an expert yet too, already. So the moment I really was going for my own vibes, like I want to go like this, I want to do this, it went a lot better. So I wouldn't, I would tell every craft distiller to definitely just do what you think is best, because that makes the product, everybody would feel all the energy that's put into it. And I think that's the best way to do it.
I agree with that. So you have to keep going also. I mean, I think we have quite some setbacks, with we had to wait for 10 months for our building before it was finished. And I mean, there was some quarrel between the project management here and and so the building was finished, and it was just had some lawsuits that we were waiting. So that was really not so nice. Now COVID. So it's really you really have to hang in there.
Hang in there.
I don't know. It's really fun, but it's not easy money. So.
No, it's a really a long-term project. I think if you want to start a distillery, you shouldn't be in it for the first few years. You're going to do this for a while, and that's okay. But you do need to put up your energy, so make it fun.
Yeah. It's also funny what Judith said. So we really notice that people have a different perception of us right now. Now we have the distillery, because I know a year and a half ago people were really telling us, hey, you have to do this or you have to do that, and now it's no longer like that. So if they have a story, then they sort of say, right. Am I telling it right?
No,
so
it's kind of cute.
It's really different than before. So that's fun. Yeah, fun to see.
Yes, because you are the experts now. Makes sense. Let's talk about the future of rum. So many people think rum is going to be the next big thing. First it was single malt whiskey, and then gin became very popular. Is rum next?
Well, we certainly hope so.
Sure, we should. Yeah. Well, when we started with the idea of a rum distillery, which was around 4 years ago, we talked to friends or whatever, and then everybody was like, yeah, are you sure? Maybe you should do a gin or a whiskey. And now whenever I tell I have a rum distillery, everybody's like, ooh, that's super smart. So that's good. Something has already changed in that part. And it's like all the time. And people say, oh, rum is the new gin. Well, I don't think we're there yet. It's not like they're selling that much. But I do feel there's a lot more room for rum. And it has certain qualities in it, because you can make a lot of cocktails with it, but you can also see it more, as you told us, like a single malt and more focused on the quality and cask strength products. I really do feel that world will be expanding more, and I like that it has certain different ways of going to drink it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that the segment is there is a lot of room for rum to grow, and yeah, we're trying to contribute to that by giving workshops and teaching people about rum and how it works. And I mean, a few weeks ago we had several workshops with bartenders from Amsterdam to explain how rum is made, and you know about our rum and the whole segment, you know, the different styles that you have, and yeah, it was really interesting, and hopefully this pays out in the long run, because that's what we're after. We're trying to make the whole segment for rum bigger.
Yeah, but you already noticed that it, and I don't think that is a good thing, but you kind of see some whiskey vibes into the premium rum already, like really, if you buy a bottle of Foursquare and then you keep it and you can sell it for a lot more a few years later. Yeah, I don't think that's something we really want to encourage. But you can see there's more interest for it, which is a good thing. And we would also like to just make a good rum for a reasonable price, and that's still really an option to get. You can have a really decent rum for 20 euros. Yeah, I really like that part about rum.
You mentioned giving workshops, training bartenders. Is that a big part of the company, educating people about rum?
Yeah, I guess we're not really selling our products, we're selling the category. And it also makes sense because there actually are a lot more rum brands starting, because people say it's interesting and you can quite easily start a rum brand. You can go to this A&A Scheer in Amsterdam and they can sell you all the rum you want for a pretty cheap price. And we chose not to do that. That also gives us the option to show people the distillery and talk a bit more about the production and the rum, to give it a bit more depth than just be branding. So that, yeah, that's important to us. Mm-hmm. To give explanations and talk about what rum really is.
Yeah, so I don't think we're necessarily making a lot of money out of this, but it's more like an indirect way of selling our rum. So, you know, if people know about it and they learn to love and like rum, then yeah, eventually they're, you know, going to buy our stuff.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me. I'm looking forward to tasting your rum, wishing you all the best, and keep us posted about your new products. Bye, guys.